hey, Jim, you give me $1 and I'll give you a coin. Tether is the biggest one, but there are a bunch of them out there. Okay, so you're the stablecoin sponsor, Julia. I give you $1 and you give me a Julia coin or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But
involving XRP and the Moscow Exchange, specifically the launch of an official XRP price index. The key idea behind this update is that XRP is now getting a more formal and structured pricing benchmark on a major national exchange, which can be seen as a step toward greater institutional recognition. Instead of relying on a single exchange price, this index aggregates data from multiple major crypto platforms, such as Binance, Bybit, OKX, and BitGet, creating a more balanced and reliable representation of XRP's market value. This type of index is important because it reflects how traditional financial systems operate. In stock markets and commodities, official indices are used to track prices in a standardized way, allowing institutions to build financial products like derivatives, funds, and structured investments. By introducing an XRP index that updates every 15 seconds during trading hours, the Moscow Exchange is essentially treating XRP more like a recognized financial asset rather than just a speculative cryptocurrency. This could signal growing interest from institutional players who require accurate and transparent pricing before entering a market. Another important aspect is the idea of aggregation. Crypto prices can vary slightly across exchanges due to differences in liquidity, trading volume, and regional demand. By combining data from several platforms, the index reduces the impact of anomalies or manipulation on any single exchange. This makes the price feed more stable and trustworthy, which is especially important for large-scale investors and financial institutions. The post also highlights why this matters in a broader sense. First, it gives XRP a formal benchmark on a recognized exchange, which can increase credibility. Second, it mirrors how institutions typically evaluate assets before creating investment products. Third, it reinforces the perception of XRP as a tradable and recognized asset within global finance. While this does not automatically mean massive adoption or price increases, it does represent a structural step toward integration with traditional financial systems. Overall, the image is presenting this development as a significant milestone for XRP, suggesting that it is moving closer to mainstream financial infrastructure. However, it is important to understand that while such developments can improve legitimacy and accessibility, they are only one part of a much larger picture that includes regulation, demand, and real-world usage. Highly optimistic narrative about XRP and its potential role in global finance, particularly in cross-border payments. The post claims that the International Monetary Fund has identified XRP as a strong fit for cross-border payments, which is used to support the idea that XRP could become a key infrastructure component in international financial transactions. While the IMF has explored digital assets and blockchain technology in various reports, such statements are often interpreted broadly, and the exact wording or context is important before drawing firm conclusions. The post also highlights the XRP ledger as the underlying technology, emphasizing its ability to process fast and low-cost transactions. It suggests that a system called RealFi could enable cashback rewards on XRP payments, introducing an additional incentive layer for users. This concept ties into the broader vision of using blockchain networks not only for payments, but also for integrated financial services. However, the mention of earning a separate token alongside XRP transactions indicates that part of the message is designed to attract attention to a specific project or token rather than purely inform. Another major claim in the post is that the global payments market, valued at hundreds of trillions of dollars, could eventually be accessed through the XRP ledger. This reflects a common belief among XRP supporters that Ripple's technology can significantly improve cross-border transfers by reducing time and cost compared to traditional banking systems. While the global payments market is indeed massive, capturing a meaningful share of it depends on regulatory approval, partnerships, competition, and real-world adoption, all of which are still evolving. The highlighted document in the image appears to compare different blockchain systems used for payments, mentioning XRP's transaction speed, low cost, and its deflationary mechanism, where a small amount of XRP is burned with each transaction. These are real technical features of the XRP ledger, and are often cited as advantages in payment use cases. The document also references how Ripple's network interacts with financial institutions, which supports the narrative of institutional integration. However, the overall tone of the post is clearly bullish and promotional, combining real technical details with broader assumptions and marketing elements. It presents XRP as being on the verge of massive adoption, while also promoting a related token, which suggests a mix of information and persuasion. This kind of content is common in the crypto space, where developments are often framed in the most optimistic way possible. In summary, the image blends factual elements about XRP's technology and potential use cases with speculative claims about global adoption and institutional endorsement. It highlights the growing interest in blockchain-based payment systems while also showing how narratives can be amplified to create excitement and engagement. According to the post, Evernorth has filed updated documents with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, specifically a Form S-4, which is typically used in merger-related public listings. This suggests that the company is preparing for a potential debut on NASDAQ through a merger with Armada Acquisition Corp. II, a type of special-purpose acquisition company. The key point highlighted is that Evernorth holds over 473 million XRP, making XRP a central part of its strategy. This is important because it positions XRP not just as a tradable cryptocurrency, but as a treasury asset held by a company aiming to enter traditional financial markets. If such a company successfully goes public, it could create a bridge between crypto assets and traditional equity markets, potentially allowing institutional investors to gain indirect exposure to XRP through publicly traded shares. The mention of SEC filings indicates that this process is subject to regulatory review and approval. This is a critical step, as any company seeking to go public in the United States must meet strict disclosure and compliance requirements. The listing is not guaranteed, as it depends on both regulatory clearance and shareholder approval. However, the act of filing updated documents shows that the process is actively moving forward. Another important aspect is the concept of building an institutional XRP treasury. This implies that Evernorth aims to accumulate and manage a large reserve of XRP as part of its business model. In traditional finance, treasury holdings are often associated with stability and long-term value management, so applying this concept to XRP suggests a shift toward treating it as a strategic asset rather than purely as a speculative one. The broader implication of this development is that it reflects growing interest in integrating cryptocurrencies into established financial structures. A publicly listed company centered around XRP could increase visibility, legitimacy, and accessibility for the asset, especially among institutional investors who may not directly participate in crypto markets. However, it is important to approach this information with a balanced perspective. While the filing and planned listing are real procedural steps, they do not guarantee success or immediate impact on XRP's price or adoption. Market conditions, regulatory decisions, and investor interest will all play significant roles in determining the outcome. Overall, the image presents this development as a meaningful step toward institutional involvement with XRP, highlighting how crypto-related companies are increasingly interacting with traditional financial systems through regulated processes like public listings. David Schwartz regarding the design of RXP and its level of control. The main claim highlighted is that RXP was intentionally designed so that Ripple cannot fully control it, even under legal pressure from authorities such as U.S. courts. This idea is central to ongoing debates about decentralization in the crypto space, especially when it comes to projects that are closely associated with private companies. The statement suggests that RXP's architecture was built in a way that limits centralized authority. In blockchain systems, decentralization typically means that no single entity can unilaterally control transactions, freeze funds, or alter the network. By emphasizing that RXP was designed to avoid control, the post is reinforcing the argument that RXP operates more like a decentralized digital asset rather than a centrally managed system. This distinction has been particularly important in regulatory discussions, where authorities assess whether a token behaves more like a security tied to a company or as an independent asset. However, the topic is more nuanced than the post presents. While the RXP ledger is open source and operates through a network of validators, Ripple has historically played a significant role in its development, promotion, and ecosystem growth. This has led to ongoing debates about how decentralized RXP truly is compared to other cryptocurrencies. Statements like the one quoted are often used to highlight the technical design, but real-world influence can also come from factors such as token holdings, partnerships, and ecosystem leadership. The inclusion of images of David Schwartz and the RXP logo is meant to add credibility and authority to the message. It visually connects the statement to a key figure within Ripple, making the claim appear more grounded in insider knowledge. The tone of the post, using words like crazy, is clearly designed to grab attention and emphasize the significance of the statement. At the same time, this narrative can influence how people perceive RXP's regulatory position. If RXP is seen as sufficiently decentralized, it may be treated differently under financial regulations compared to assets that are directly controlled by a central entity. This has been a major point of discussion in legal cases and policy debates involving Ripple and RXP. Overall, the image presents a simplified but impactful version of a complex topic. It highlights the intention behind RXP's design while downplaying the broader discussion about influence and control. The post reflects how key statements from industry figures can be amplified to shape perception, especially in a space where decentralization is both a technical feature and a strategic narrative.